Hey, Bub! Welcome back to the B-Movie Bunker. Today we're looking at X-Men Days of Future Past. This is 2014, brought to us by Bryan Singer. So the guy who started the X-Men films 14 years ago, back in 2000, is back in the saddle again. And how did he do? I think he did a pretty good job. Some basic background on the story. What we have is bleak future for the X-Men and for mutants in general, as the Sentinels have pretty much killed or captured everyone who is a mutant except for a small handful, particularly Professor Xavier, Magneto, and a couple others like Kitty Pryde, Blink, Wolverine. And what we have is Kitty Pryde uses her powers, a little different use of her powers than I'm used to seeing, but uses her powers to send Wolverine's consciousness back to the 1970s, to basically stop Mystique from killing Bolivar Trask, the guy who invented the original concept of the Sentinels. Because when she kills him, there's a whole convoluted story that goes on of how that makes the Sentinels even more powerful. So Wolverine has to travel back in time and stop this from happening. Of course, part of my fear with this movie when I saw the trailers was this was going to be just yet another Wolverine movie where Wolverine is basically a glory hog and he sucks up all the action, but he doesn't. I mean, there's a little bit of that, but for the most part, Wolverine at times is playing a bit of fish out of water because he's not the overall hero. He can't do everything to save everyone. You have great performances by James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender. I think Jennifer Lawrence does a very good job again as Mystique. I was a little disappointed in Peter Dinklage, not in his acting, in that I don't think he was used to his potential. I think that Bolivar Trask was, he was quote unquote the bad guy, but he wasn't really the villain of the movie. Once again, this is a movie where the X-Men spend more time fighting amongst each other, or I should say mutants spend more time fighting amongst each other than they do anyone else. But I still like the overall movie. Some great little cameo bits and smaller roles to some of the other mutants to see some of the great mutant powers, and the way that they handle some of the powers and they film it is absolutely glorious. I love the way they handle Blink. The small bit by Quicksilver is absolutely phenomenal. That scene alone is worth the cost of admission. And it's, Quicksilver's not just in this X-Men movie. He's going to be coming up in another movie with Marvel, and I wonder if they're going to do it as well as they did in this one, because it really is a scene worth seeing. I do have some minor complaints about the movie. The whole time travel concept, where you have to travel back in time to stop something bad from happening. I never quite understand we're going to put you back with just barely enough time to accomplish your goal. Why don't you send me back like a week before that? Send me back a month before. Send me back further back where, in case I have a minor setback, it's not as big a deal, where, it's like I don't have 2 days to save the world. I've got a month. Give me some time. If you can already send me back in time, why not send me back, you send me back 50 years. Why not send me back 50 years and 6 days? Give me that little bit of extra buffer time, but that really doesn't destroy the story. I think that this movie is probably the best X-Men film that we've had to date. Up until this point, I felt that the first one, the very first X-Men movie, was probably the best of the bunch. X-Men First Class, I was kind of so-so on. I mean, I liked it initially when I saw it, except for parts, and then thinking back of it, my like of it went less. So on a scale of 1 to 10 for this one, scale of 1 to 10, though we only have 6, but scale of 1 to 10, this movie is kind of, it's kind of encompasses, embodies what the X-Men is that the X-Men themselves, while many of them are very powerful, on their own they cannot accomplish everything. For example, Wolverine being sent back in time, a lot of his powers, first of all, this is before he was, had gone through his whole treatment to have all of adamantium, so he's not as powerful as he was, plus not everything involves, claws to the face. So sometimes you have to think beyond that. And there are the multitude of powers that work together. And the way they show that in some of the fight scenes in the future, especially, of the powers working together. People using their powers together. And that's why this movie, I feel it is. This movie while it does rewrite a bit of X-Men history, it also, I think, makes the previous films a little better, although there's not much saving X3. But I think it ties some of the stories together a little better, and it gives you a little bit more depth to the universe, and it takes on one of the biggest stories in the X-Men universe going back a ways. I liked it a lot. I think that the special effects were phenomenal. I like the setting, the whole 70s setting, and using the Vietnam peace talks as the backdrop and the setting for this was good. There's little things still, I don't want to spoil the movie for people, but little things that bothered me here and there. But again, nowhere near enough to make this, not an enjoyable film for me, and still not the best of the X-Men films. Would I say it's the best comic book movie ever? No, I wouldn't say that. I would say it's in my top 5 or 6. Yeah, I would say that, and that's some hollow ground for me, because I'm a big Thor fan, so I like the Thor movies. I love the Avengers film, and the last Captain America. So I mean, this movie's up there. It's not the best one ever, but it's still a very good comic book film, and that's one of the big things. This is a definite comic book movie. As I mentioned before, the scene with Quicksilver is definitely worth a watch. That scene gives it that comic book feel again, where you've got the action, but there's still that little bit of humor as well. I mean, comic books, the stories I grew up with, there was always a little bit of tongue-in-cheek, a little bit of campiness, a little bit of cheese, and this movie gets some of that without going too far to that extreme where it becomes a parody of itself. You don't want that with this type of movie. Comic book movies have evolved beyond the just cornball, cheesy antics and effects, and I think this movie does a great job with it. And as it is with all Marvel movies, whether or not it's Marvel, Disney, or other Marvel franchises, stay through the credits. I really cannot wait to see what they do with X-Men Apocalypse. So that's all I have for this one. Until next time, stay safe out there, bub, in the wasteland, bub. And these, you want a fondue? I can fondue for all of us. Till next time, that's all. Bye.